Hello guys, welcome to my channel. I'm M. Davila, and today I want to talk to you a bit about this amazing film director, George Romero. I'm such a huge fan of him. Okay, George A. Romero was born February 4, 1940 in the New York City borough of the Bronx and died July 16, 2017 in Toronto, Canada. He is the son of Anne Romero Borsky and George Romero, a commercial artist. His mother was Lithuanian and his father moved from Spain to Cuba as a child. Raised in the Bronx, he would frequently ride the subway into Manhattan to rent film reels to view at his house. He was one of only two people who repeatedly rented the opera-based film The Tale of Hoffman. The other was future director Martin Scorsese. Romero attended Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. After graduating from college in 1960, Romero began his career shooting short films and TV commercials. One of his earliest commercial films was a segment for Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood in which Fred Rogers underwent a tonsillectomy. With 9 friends, including screenwriter John A. Russo, Romero formed Image 10 Productions in the late 1960s. This is the production company that produced Night of the Living Dead in 1968, directed by Romero and co-written with John A. Russo. The movie became a cult classic and a defining moment for a modern horror cinema. Among the inspiration for Romero's filmmaking, as he told to Robert K. Elder in an interview for The Film That Changed My Life, was the British film The Tales of Hoffman in 1951 from the Powell and Pressburger team. It was the filmmaking, the fantasy, the fact that it was a fantasy and it had a few frightening, sort of bizarre things in it. It was everything. It was really a good movie for me, and it gave me an early appreciation for the power of visual media, the fact that you could experiment with it. The 3 films that Romero created that follow Night of the Living Dead are There's Always Vanilla in 1971, Jack's Wife Season of the Witch in 1972, and The Crazies 1973, were not as well received as Night of the Living Dead or some of his later work. The Crazies, dealing with the biosphere that induces an epidemic of homicidal madness, and the critically acclaimed art house success Martin 1978, a film that deals with the vampire myth. These were the 2 well-known films from this period. Romero returned to the zombie genre in 1978 with Dawn of the Dead, shot on a budget of $1.5 million. The film earned over $55 million internationally and was later named one of the top cult films by Entertainment Weekly in 2003. He made the 3rd entry in his Dead series with Day of the Dead in 1985. Between those 2 films, Romero shot Night Riders in 1981, another festival favorite about a group of modern-day jousters who reenact tournaments on motorcycles, and Creepshow 1982, written by Stephen King, an anthology of tongue-in-cheek tales modeled after 1950 horror comics. The cult classic success of Creepshow led to the creation of Romero's Tale from the Dark Side, a horror anthology television series that aired from 1983 to 1988. As the decade drew to a close, Romero directed Monkey Shines in 1988 about a service animal. In the 1990s, Romero updated his original screenplay and executive produced the 1990 remake of The Night of the Living Dead, directed by Tom Savini for Columbia TriStar. Savini is also responsible for the makeup and special effects in many of Romero's films, including Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Creepshow, and Monkey Shines. In 1998, he directed a live-action commercial promoting the video game Resident Evil 2 in Los Angeles. The 30-second advertisement featured the game's two main characters, Leon S. Kennedy, portrayed by actor Brad Renfro, and Claire Redfield, portrayed by Adrienne France, fighting horde of zombies while in Raccoon City's police station. 2000 saw the release of Bruiser. This movie is about a man whose face becomes a blank mask. Universal Studios produced and released a 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead, which Romero was not involved. Romero, who lived in Toronto, directed a four-dead movie in that city, Land of the Dead, released in 2005. The movie's working title was Dead Reckoning. Actors Simon Baker, Dennis Hooper, Asia Argento, and John Leguizamo starred in it. And the film was released by Universal Pictures, who released the Dawn of the Dead remake the year before. The film received generally positive reviews. Romero was married 3 times. He married his first wife, Nancy, in 1971. They divorced in 1978. Romero met his second wife, actress Christina Forrest, on the set of Season of the Witch in 1973, and they married in 1981. Romero met Susan Droscher while filming Land of the Dead in 2005, and they married in September 2011 at Martha's Vineyard and live in Toronto. He acquired Canadian citizenship in 2009, becoming a dual Canada-US citizen. On July 16, 2017, Romero died following a brief but aggressive battle with lung cancer. According to a statement by his longtime producing partner, Peter Grunwald, Romero died while listening to the score of one of his favorite films, The Quiet Man, with his wife, Susan Desrocher Romero, and daughter from his second marriage, Tina Romero, at his side. Romero ranked his top 10 films of all time for the 2002 Sight and Sound Greatest Films poll. They are The Brothers Karamazov, Casablanca, Dr. Strangelove, High Noon, King Solomon's Mines, North by Northwest, a film on which a teenage Romero worked as a goofer, The Quiet Man, Repulsion, Touch of Evil, and The Tale of Hoffman. Romero listed the films in alphabetical order with special placement given to Michael Powell's The Tales of Hoffman, which he cites as my favorite film of all time, the movie that made me want to make movies. On October 27, 2009, Romero was honored with the Mastermind Award at Pike TV Scream 2009. The tribute was presented by longtime Romero fan Quentin Tarantino, who stated, in his speech that the A in George A. Romero stood for a fucking genius. I have always been a fan of George A. Romero. I really thought that he was from Cuba, that maybe he immigrated to New York. But as you see, his father was from Spain, and he went to Cuba. But by the way, I have a relative from my grandmother. The surname is Romero, so that's why it's so familiar to me, his name. And one of my favorite movie from him is The Night of the Living Dead, but the 1990, directed by Tom Savini. Tom Savini made a really good work directing that movie, and he always worked together with Romero. Okay, amigos, that's the end of my video. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, share, and leave me some comment. See you in my next video.